Prime Ministers, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 15th Asia Security Summit, the IISS Shangri-La Dialogue. We are delighted to have again assembled such a large gathering of defence ministers and professionals to advance defence diplomacy and to debate Asia-Pacific security issues. We are proud of 15 years of accomplishment. From experimental beginnings in 2002, the IISS has built Asia's premier defence and security summit. Before 2002, in the Asia-Pacific, presidents and prime ministers met, foreign ministers met, finance ministers met, but defence ministers rarely gathered in groups of more than two. Much as a result of the success of this dialogue, regional institutions, including the ASEAN Defence Ministers Meeting and ADMM Plus, have been born. Inspiring astute defence diplomacy will be our enduring goal. This is an important transition year. Since 2002, the number of defence ministers attending has doubled and total attendance has tripled. The initial structure for the IISS Shangri-La Dialogue is bearing a heavy weight. Moving towards 2017, we shall adjust the format of the dialogue to fully accommodate the range of defence ministers we host and to ensure that we have a diversity of perspectives from all parts of Asia and from all participating regions. We shall make Saturday a day of plenaries, opening up 5 more major speaking slots, run our special sessions on a Sunday, and conclude with 3 major ministerial statements in plenary. We shall introduce technological and other improvements, increase engagement from business, strengthen the involvement of the Asia-Pacific successor generation, and make other adjustments to give the IISS Shangri-La Dialogue a fresh look and feel, maintain it as the best event of its kind, and organize it to be an effective engine for defence diplomatic deeds as much as words. For this anniversary year, we have made a special effort to provide the best intellectual underpinning to support our discussions. In the weeks leading up to the 15th IISS Shangri-La Dialogue, the IISS has produced a remarkable range of material, facts, analysis and policy recommendations relevant to the great issues at stake in the Asia-Pacific. Our military balance publication, by next year to be produced as a relational electronic database, provides the most detailed public information available on defence capacities and military trends in Asia. Our Asia-Pacific Regional Security Assessment, published specifically for this dialogue, offers detailed analysis of key themes, such as India's role in the Asia-Pacific, the militarization of the South China Sea, Vietnam's major power diplomacy, regional maritime security initiatives, North Korea's threat to regional security, naval capability development in the region, Asia's growing defence industrial capabilities, the migration security nexus in the region, the potential threat from Islamic State, as well as relations across the Taiwan Strait. 2 IISS Adelphi books have been published in connection with this year's dialogue. One, by Nigel Inkster on China's cyber power, provides the most comprehensive analysis drawn from Chinese language sources and numerous meetings with Chinese cyber professionals of China's cyber capabilities and doctrine. Another, by Mark Fitzpatrick, Asia's Latent Nuclear Powers, reviews the nuclear capabilities of Japan, Taiwan and Korea, and offers a reconfirmation of the role extended deterrence plays in keeping those capabilities latent. Finally, Sarah Rain has authored a powerful proposal entitled A Roadmap to Strategic Relevance, EU Security Policy Options in Southeast Asia. In it, she urges on arms control, get strategic, on exercises, get active, on liaison officers, get engaged, on training, get networking, on values, get visible and on thematic engagements prioritized clearly. For those curious about how Europe could strengthen its security relationships with this ASEAN region, it is essential reading. Again, the IISS has created, we believe, the factual and analytical context to support an informed dialogue. We look forward to a balanced and detailed debate this year and also to constructive proposals for improving the defence and security environment. One feature of the IISS Shangri-La dialogue that has extraordinary appeal and importance is our tradition of inviting a regional head of government to offer the keynote address at our opening dinner. This year, we have a leader of a large ASEAN country to inaugurate our 15th anniversary summit. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha came to politics late in his career, having risen through the Royal Thai Army's Officer Corps to successive senior appointments as Commander of the 2nd Infantry Division, Commander of the 1st Army, Army Chief of Staff, and in 2010, Army Commander-in-Chief. Following months of acute political conflict in Thailand, on 22 May 2014, General Prayut, then still Army Commander-in-Chief, led a military intervention against the government of the Pheu Thai Party. General Prayut assumed control of the country as leader of the National Council for Peace and Order, which 2 months after the coup declared an interim constitution providing sweeping powers for the armed forces. In August 2014, the military-dominated national legislature appointed General Prayut as Prime Minister. He retired from his post as Army CNC in October 2014. He and his government have subsequently pursued policies aimed at radically reforming Thailand's political scene. A referendum on a new constitution is scheduled for 7 August this year. If the electorate approves the proposed new constitution, the most important feature of which is a fully appointed and more powerful Senate, it will provide the framework for a return to democracy next year. Perhaps inevitably, given the circumstances in which he and the NCPO came to power, Prayut Chan-o-cha's tenure of office has attracted controversy. Among other things, he is well known for his direct style of speaking, which is showcased each week in his Friday night nationwide TV address, Returning Happiness to the People. This Friday night, we are fortunate that he is addressing the Shangri-La dialogue, particularly because he has not previously spoken extensively either to international audiences or on regional and international themes. We look forward tonight to hearing his exposition of Thailand's outlook on regional security at a time of great complexity and rising tension in the Asia-Pacific strategic environment. Mr. Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, Mr. Lee Hsien Loong, Prime Minister of Singapore, Dr. John Chipman, Director General and Chief Executive of the IISS, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor for me to have been invited by the Prime Minister of Singapore and Dr. Chipman to give the keynote speech at this year's Shangri-La Dialogue. The success of your discussions and exchanges of ideas throughout the past 15 years prove that the Shangri-La Dialogue plays a constructive role in promoting regional security and cooperation. In addition, I am pleased to be back in Singapore once again. I was here last year to attend the 50th anniversary celebrations of Singapore's independence. Indeed, Singapore is a good example of a country that has not only successfully developed, but also plays an important role in promoting regional security. 14 years ago, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore's founding father and its first Prime Minister, was the first leader to address the first Shangri-La dialogue. Mr. Lee's observations regarding the regional security situation remain relevant today. The key players remain the same, but the security situation has become more complicated, interconnected, and challenging. Mr. Lee predicted that more countries would play a greater role in the region, and that there would be an increase in the spread of international terrorism and other things. Our world has faced countless challenges throughout the generations, from the bipolar world of the Cold War era to the multipolar world in which we live today. The security of all communities, countries, and regions are interconnected, and we live in an interdependent world where we face important challenges affecting global security, be they traditional threats such as conflicts in the South China Sea and on the Korean Peninsula, or non-traditional threats that are common concerns for us all, such as political, economic, and social conflicts, challenges to democratization, and especially the lack of good governance, energy and food security, natural disasters, infectious disease, international terrorism, drug trafficking, climate change, haze, cybercrime, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, human trafficking, irregular migration, and aging societies. Because of all of this, maintaining security equilibrium has become increasingly difficult. Thailand is an example of a country that has perhaps lost its equilibrium in the past several years, despite having been successful in maintaining a good balance and equilibrium in the past, even during periods of war and crisis. But now, through cooperation from many sides, both within Thailand and internationally, I believe that Thailand is increasingly getting back on track, even though a number of challenges remain to be addressed. We live in a globalized world without borders because of advances in transport and communications technology that can connect us within seconds, and this can cause both crisis and bring opportunity. And these challenges that we face are increasingly transnational. So, from now on, we must truly share not only in each other's happinesses and successes, but also trials and tribulations. And because of this, the international community is gradually moving from a mindset of one country, one destiny, to one world, one destiny. All countries should therefore join together to consider how to address these problems and challenges for equitable benefit, aiming to increase mutual trust and confidence. The regional architecture today lacks proper equilibrium. Resolving the security challenges in the region together, therefore, requires that we have in place a good regional architecture. The end of the Cold War brought about changes to the regional architecture, creating a multipolar situation without clear-cut rules and regulations, which has led to greater uncertainty and represents a growing challenge for all countries in the region, especially for small and developing countries. And today, the security and potentials of the Asia-Pacific region are pull factors for countries to expand their role in the region, politically, economically, and socially. The United States has its rebalancing policy, and its policy to move free trade through the TPP, for which Thailand is interested, and we are expediting the consideration process through studies and engagement with all sectors. And we hope that members of the TPP can help us evaluate the effects of joining the TPP. As for China, it has its One Belt, One Road policy and is seeking to advance free trade through FTAP and RCEP, while Russia has a policy focusing on Asia and free trade under the Eurasian Economic Union, and India has its Act East policy. So the United States, China, and Japan are still the most important players in the region, but India, Russia, South Korea, and ASEAN are becoming more important. As for China, while it considers that its economic growth and development and the development of its security capabilities is being carried out in a peaceful and constructive manner, many countries remain concerned about these developments. Therefore, I believe that ASEAN must be united and increase its role in building a strategic new equilibrium in the region in order to support an atmosphere of peace and enable all sides to abide by principles, regulations, and values that are universally accepted as constructive. It has been nearly half a century since ASEAN's founding, and ASEAN has clearly demonstrated that it is able to create a zone of peace among its members, some of whom were in conflict in the past, and has also achieved the goals envisioned by its founding fathers in becoming a dynamic community. This is the challenge that I believe that the experts at this meeting should try to find a solution to, should try to find a suitable equilibrium for the region, coming up with ways and means for joint cooperation in laying down the foundations and initiating joint activities constructively in order to narrow gaps and create balance for the regional architecture and in good time. And importantly, this will lead countries in the region towards sustainable security and stability without leaving any country behind. It is for our own mutual benefit as well as for succeeding generations. Ladies and gentlemen, so what sorts of preparations do we need to make? And are we ready? All countries have to begin from a foundation of security and stability. And no one country can face these challenges alone. Therefore, thinking only in terms of national security, however, may no longer be sufficient to address challenges in a holistic manner. So we have to broaden our thinking to include regional and global security, which covers economic security, food security, water security, energy security, and cybersecurity, among other things. Everything that I have said so far touches on the issue of security. So we must come together and brainstorm constructively, piecing together the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle in order to create a better world for our children and our countries in good time. Ladies and gentlemen, so how should we address the various problems that affect global security together? So, I think that we should begin with the basics. First is through understanding. Second, through cooperation. Third, through giving one another support and encouragement. And fourth, through giving opportunities and support to countries facing internal issues. So, without outside encouragement for resolving these internal issues, the problems could become more complicated, spiraling out of control, and ultimately affecting the security of other countries, as has happened and is happening in all corners of the globe. We need to find a suitable equilibrium as soon as possible. Otherwise, those of us who have a direct duty to maintain security will have failed. In our quest for a new equilibrium, we need to have common goals, and I believe that there are four. One is secure peace, two, sustainable growth, three, shared prosperity, and four, preserving the planet. So we must find common ground, find areas of collaboration, putting aside our differences as much as we can. Every country should make a paradigm shift from confrontation to collaboration, and leave no one behind. We must move from conflict to coherence and harmony, from common interest to shared values, and from a zero-sum attitude to a positive-sum attitude. I like to think of this new paradigm as being built upon a foundation of the three M's, namely mutual trust, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. I believe that ensuring balance and building sustainable security in the region depends on 7 factors. First, promoting trust and confidence between countries in the region, which requires time and the cultivation of familiarity. Countries should continue to work together in line with the culture of giving in Asia, meaning the more you give, the more you receive in return. Therefore, the more trust and confidence we have in each other, the more security we will receive in return. Second, creating developing supportive partnerships through regional groupings or the formation of trilateral partnerships. Partnerships can be formed between countries with intermediate levels of development or between countries with high levels of development and those with lower levels of development, or with major powers providing support to countries with varying levels of development on the basis of each country's capabilities so as to bridge gaps and disparities in all areas. Third, avoiding the trap of having to choose sides or engage in partisan divides. Small and middle powers must seek friendly engagement with other countries around them and join together in order to build a sustainable equilibrium. After all, no country wishes to be forced to choose sides, and we hope for the goodwill and understanding of all of our friends. Fourth, promoting cooperation between major powers, who are the key players in the region. They should find ways to cooperate to build greater equilibrium, and this would not only benefit them, but also benefits the countries in the region as a whole. Let us help and support each other in our effort to create a truly equitable world. Fifth, countries in the region should think of sovereignty in less traditional terms in order to support collective security in the long term. Countries will, of course, continue to place importance on their defense policies. But the example of ASEAN, which was founded 49 years ago, and the establishment of international organizations across the globe clearly shows that there are better choices. The choice of promoting mutual security, mutual benefits, and respect for the rule of law and international law. This, in my opinion, is the way forward for true security in the future. Let us make the borders between us true borders of cooperation. Sixth, promoting development in tandem with security. Security is the foundation for building economic, social, and cultural prosperity. But on the other hand, challenges to human security can also affect national and regional security. Thailand therefore places importance on addressing root causes and on focusing on development from within. We have initiated a public-private people partnership policy so that all sectors of society are involved in the country's development. And in all of our efforts, we are guided by His Majesty the King's sufficiency economy philosophy, which is based on His Majesty's experiences over 40 years and which places people at the core. And this year is the 10th anniversary of His Majesty's being awarded the UNDP Human Development Lifetime Achievement Award. And all of this is in line with the UN Sustainable Development Agenda as well. And as Thailand is chair of the Group of 77 in New York City in 2016, this year, my proposals today to this meeting and that of the Thai government are not only for the benefit of Thailand alone, but can also support efforts to decrease the disparity between countries and are in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And importantly, the approach that I have taken is to address problems through development cooperation without leaving any country behind. And at the same time, supporting ASEAN cooperation as well as international cooperation in general. As an ex-military officer, I believe that soldiers should not limit their role to safeguarding their country's sovereignty, but should also play a role in supporting their country's development by laying the foundations for sustainable security. And this is a role that is stipulated in every Thai constitution. Thailand has therefore taken part in UN peacekeeping operations in various countries, including Timor-Leste, Burundi, and Sudan. Thai peacekeepers not only took part in combat missions in those countries, but also helped to develop the livelihoods of people in those countries as well through application of the sufficiency economy philosophy. And last, peace and stability in the region and the world are in the common interest of all countries. Thailand supports and is ready to cooperate to preserve peace and stability in the region and the world through peaceful means on the basis of international law and in accordance with our obligations. As for security challenges in the region on which we should cooperate and which should be discussed in depth at this meeting over the weekend is the first tensions in the South China Sea and East China Sea. Thailand believes that ASEAN must be united on this issue because peace and stability in the region's maritime areas are beneficial to all. We must promote freedom of overflight and freedom of navigation, as well as support peaceful resolution of the disputes in line with international law, including UNCLOS. Thailand considers that full and effective implementation of the DOC will create an atmosphere conducive to resolution of the problem, and we support the early conclusion of the COC. Therefore, the claimant states must take every opportunity and use every platform to show their political will to resolve this issue. Problems in the maritime areas of the region should not become a zero-sum game, as this would destroy the long-standing good relations and would benefit nobody in the end. Countries should therefore take a win-win approach to the situation in the region's maritime areas, and Thailand proposes that all countries in the region, whether claimants or non-claimants, take part in constructive activities, joint activities for their mutual benefit, which should focus on achieving concrete results and be carried out in line with international law. We should consider how such joint activities could be carried out in a constructive manner and in tandem with negotiations, so that territorial claims do not become obstacles. And as I said, the borders between us should become borders of cooperation. Second, the situation on the Korean Peninsula. North Korea's nuclear program continues to create tension and is a major cause for concern in the region. Therefore, the six-party talks should be revitalized in order to support confidence and lessen tensions through diplomatic channels. In addition, all countries involved should consider increasing humanitarian assistance to the North Korean people and maintain channels of communication with the North Korean government in order to create a conducive atmosphere for dialogue. And North Korea should also be given space so that its behavior is more compatible with the international community and it does not isolate itself any further. Third, terrorism and extremism, such as the acts that have taken place in many places around the world, attest that international terrorism is a regional threat and must be swiftly dealt with through cooperation in order to prevent its further spread, as well as the spread of extremism. This involves both development measures and military measures, the sharing of experiences and best practices regarding moderation, dissemination of knowledge and understanding between religion and race, and addressing the root causes, such as loss of economic and social opportunities, violation of human rights and injustice, and also other deeper problems. And if these issues are not addressed, it could tie into situations of unrest in many countries. Fourth, the stockpiling of arms should take place in a limited manner and as necessary to safeguard national interests and not to assail or threaten other countries. Fifth, irregular migration is the joint responsibility of the originating countries, transit countries, and destination countries. Responsibility should not be a burden on any one country, and the appropriate way to address this problem is to focus on the root causes by helping to develop the quality of life in order to lower economic disparities and eliminate injustice, and in line with human rights. And in this regard, Thailand has played a role in addressing this problem and hosted 2 special meetings on irregular migration in the Indian Ocean so that all sides could jointly come together to resolve this issue, so that countries of transit do not become a breeding ground for human trafficking networks. Sixth, cybersecurity. In enhancing cybersecurity, every country must set up a dedicated agency responsible and ensure that there are laws that cover this issue using compatible standards, including facilitating cooperation on information sharing and technology, as well as ensuring that there is a balance between human rights, protecting it, and security in terms of law enforcement. And last, climate change and disaster mitigation. Climate change affects the prosperity and sustainability of the region and the world. Drought and floods affect the agricultural sector and food security. In this regard, natural resources and the environment, because they are global treasures, we should cooperate to conserve and protect them, no matter what country we live in. In the case of mitigating the effects of natural disasters, countries in the region should enhance cooperation, share technology and best practices in areas such as military medicine, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, military development and military engineers. Ladies and gentlemen, Thailand is in a period of transition. The security of every country and the region is intertwined, and Thailand's future is therefore connected with our stability, prosperity, and to regional security. Thailand stands ready to be a partner and to play a constructive role in laying the foundations for sustainable regional security. And at the same time, Thailand's stability will have an effect on ASEAN and regional stability. Therefore, I wish to share with you some experiences and viewpoints from the Thai perspective. Thailand is in a transition towards a strong and sustainable democracy. We are facing many complex challenges to our security. Thailand's national security has been affected by poverty, social disparities, the middle income trap, a fall in agricultural output as a result of the drought, and falling commodity prices brought on by the global economic slump. Thailand has also been experiencing unrest in the southern border provinces, which is an internal problem and not a conflict stemming from religious tensions or one with foreign involvement, and we are addressing this issue through the judicial process. In addition, Thailand is facing the challenge of irregular migration, and we have a foreign migrant population in the millions, for which we have to address many social problems such as human trafficking and IUU fishing, and for which we are rapidly coming up with measures. Nevertheless, our key problem has been political conflict and unprecedented divisiveness. This has stemmed from a political setting that has produced democracy only in form but not in function, thus resulting in national administration that lacked good governance. The public budget was used for political gain. There was ineffective populism, rampant corruption, which led to political conflicts that could not be addressed through democratic processes. There were legal deadlocks, and the rallying of people from opposing sides to come and clash with one another. There was a breakdown of the rule of law, and ultimately no order in society. There were increasing demands for unlimited rights and freedoms that violated communal peace and the rights of other members of the public, and there was ineffective law enforcement. Because of this, we needed to come in and to put the country on the track of reform. We did not want the situation in the country to descend into unrest or perhaps even civil war. So there was no other way other than to intervene and to restore peace and order, to prevent further damage to our economy. This is all so that we can rebuild our democracy to be stronger and more sustainable. And I add that to this day, there are still politically motivated individuals, both in and outside Thailand, who abuse social media to engage in libel and distortion of facts. Thailand's current challenge is therefore to find a way to solve these problems and to create understanding. We do not have any intentions to violate human rights or to restrict basic rights and freedoms, but it was necessary for the military to take control of the situation only for a while to prevent the escalation of violence and to restore the rule of law and social order. Given this, all of our measures have been based on the rule of law, the equal application of the law, and law enforcement. We have enforced the law only in situations when the laws have been broken. So taking action in these instances should not be considered as in violation of human rights. If there is wrong done, whoever did the wrong must be punished. So we are focused on national reconciliation, on developing the economy, and on building confidence. We have declared the corruption to be a national agenda. We are reforming and modernizing our laws, reforming our civil administration, reducing disparities, and developing the country so that there is resilience from the household level on up. We are focusing on problem solving at the root causes and have a policy to move the country towards a knowledge and innovation-based economy. This is called the Thailand 4.0 policy. And we have 10 target industries under this policy that will be in for modernization. Ladies and gentlemen, in creating a new equilibrium for Thailand, many issues must first be addressed. Of course, we have a limited amount of time, and we cannot do everything. So we have in place a 20-year national strategic plan and a roadmap, including phases 1, 2, and 3. And anything that cannot be completed during this administration will be handed over to the next government or to succeeding governments. And if we can bring peace and order back to society, reforms can then take place. And I can assure you that Thailand will return to democracy in accordance with the roadmap, and that Thailand upholds the democratic process and all of our international obligations as a responsible member of the international community, as we have always done. So, Thailand's equilibrium and resilience will help maintain and protect ASEAN's equilibrium, which will be vital towards creating a new strategic equilibrium in the Asia-Pacific. Doing this will take time. It will require trust and the political will from all countries for our mutual benefit. It should be based on mutual respect for sovereignty and international law. And in doing so, we should not impose our own ideologies as a condition or prerequisite for cooperation. Security that has equilibrium and sustainability should have three elements: military security coupled with security through development, in particular for the stability, safety, and progress of all peoples. And I am confident that there is room for all of us in the Asia-Pacific to cooperate, to engage in shared prosperity, to share resources, and to overcome conflict. And Thailand stands ready to be a partner and play a constructive role in building stability, prosperity, and sustainability in the region, leaving no one behind. And lastly, I believe the UNESCO Charter states it most appropriately with respect to what we must do, and that is to realize sustainable security. It states that since war begins in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much for your remarks and for rooting them so carefully in the statements made at previous Shangri-La dialogues, and for touching, as is right for a keynote address, on virtually every topic that we are likely to address at this year's Shangri-La dialogue. We have time for 3 or 4 questions, so I will recognize 3 or 4 people from the floor. The first person who catch my I think that's General Yao of the People's Liberation Army in China. If you stand up, then the microphone will come to you all the quicker. General Yao.
Thank you, Dr. Chipman. And thank you, Prime Minister Prayut. Thank you for your excellent speech, and thank you for sharing your vision of the regional and the global security affairs with us. And in particularly, I want to thank you for your sharing with us the Thailand approach in the, to seek equilibrium in keeping security and sustainable growth. My question actually has to do with ASEAN, because you mentioned in your speech the ASEAN's role in regional security. For the almost half a century, the ASEAN has developed a way of dealing with disputes among member states in a peaceful way. And my question is, do you see in the future an expanding regional or even global role for ASEAN to play in security affairs, especially in those you have mentioned, the security challenges you have mentioned in your speech?
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, do you see an enlarging role for ASEAN, including on a number of the issues that you raised in your speech?
I believe that ASEAN's role in regional security can be enhanced and should not encompass only the security aspect. So all concerned should come together, consider where there are obstacles to the expansion of such a role. ASEAN surely has the potential. Recently, I heard that the Chinese Prime Minister said a few things on this issue. So we must really focus on how to expand this role. We might have to consider what regional leaders have said on this topic. I believe that ASEAN can be a stronger community if we believe, first, that we cannot solve the problem alone, and second, that we must grow stronger together through cooperation. Thank you.
Republic of Korea, Chung-Min Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. My question is, you mentioned equilibrium and a passing reference to collective security. In my personal view, the biggest threat to equilibrium in this region is China's growing military footprints in the South China Sea. You also mentioned that ASEAN will play a key role in maintaining harmony and stability. My question to you, sir, is, as a key member of ASEAN, how do you perceive your neighbors' concern, in particular Vietnam and the Philippines, on China's growing more assertive stances in the South China Sea, and what would you suggest that ASEAN would do to ensure that there will be strategic stability in this region? Thank you.
I believe that if we look at everything from the standpoint of conflict, we will never be able to see a way out. If we focus solely on borders, some of which still in dispute, then again, we will never find a way out. So all parties must come together and focus on what they can do, on methods of cooperation, and find a solution together. So the important thing that we must do is how to make platforms such as the Shangri-La Dialogue a platform for the crafting of solutions, of constructive solutions and ways of resolving the problems and the challenges that we face. We may have to look beyond obstacles and the problems that we face, to look beyond to areas of collaboration so that we can find a solution. So compromises must be made for the common interest, for common security. No matter the dispute, I believe that these disputes will be ongoing, and negotiations must continue to take place, but we must focus on areas of collaboration. If there is opportunity for dialogue, then we must engage in dialogue. I know that this is difficult to actually implement, but I would hope that meetings such as this one will help to design solutions. So whatever solution that we come up with should be based on our common interest. Thank you.
And the third and final question from the lady in the back there. If you could stand up, please, and the microphone will come quickly to you and identify yourself. Sorry, I'm sure I know you, but I just can't quite see you from here. Thank you.
Yes, Sophie Boisseau-du-Rocher from Centre-Asie-Ifri. Thank you, Prime Minister, for your speech. You said that we are now living in a globalized world without borders, and you also said that sovereignty should be understood in less traditional terms. My question is, how do you reconcile these terms, and how, in your opinion and experience, nationalism can cooperate with a borderless world?
ผมคิดว่าคำตอบตรงนี้มัน
I believe that the answer is actually quite simple, but it may be difficult in practice. Nationalism is, of course, important. What I said, I didn't mean by what I said that borders or nationalism are not important. That's not what I meant. But of course there are, but we must look at the end goal, our common end goal. How do we create a peaceful world? With that goal in mind, we then come back and take a look at the areas of collaboration among us that will help us to actually address the challenges that we face. These are the problems that directly affect our peoples. So we must understand what they're going through, as well as try to find a solution to addressing these problems. So I hope that, again, the meeting over the weekend can discuss these issues that I've raised. Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. I presented you to this audience as a straight-talking statesman. You have provided us with straight talking, but also with a great deal of food for thought, particularly for how this dialogue can help support our joint endeavours in more effective defence diplomacy. Thank you very much for your address. Thank you very much for honouring us with your presence. Thank you very much for this year's 15th anniversary.
Thank you very much.